Hello and welcome to Stitched from my stash. My name is Julie and I'm coming to you from just north of Glasgow in the UK. My vlog is about sewing, knitting, patchwork and quilting, and sometimes crochet. So the idea behind my vlog is to encourage me to use up my stash as far as possible, rather than buying lots of new fabric and yarn. And it does mean sometimes I have to be a bit creative, but I am getting through my stash and finding there's a little bit more space in the drawers and the shelves in my sewing room. You're very welcome. Thank you for the lovely comments and subscriptions. Excuse me, I am still suffering with this virus. It seems to be going on a bit. So I'm going to try and crack on and give you a little overview about what I'm talking about today. First of all, what I'm wearing, this top. So I put up a photo or pattern, and the trousers likewise, finished item. And I'm going to talk about a quilt top that I have managed to finish this week. Again, a photograph. I'm going to talk about the backing and what I'm going to put on the back of that quilt. I'm going to talk about the little label I put on my hat that I made for our granddaughter, and some plans for the next week's sewing and making. So if that's for you, great. If not, that's fine. So let's start with what I'm wearing, which is I suppose it's like a polo neck, or it's perhaps like a toaster neck version of this Burda pattern. And I've made quite a few of these. And I have just a ordinary neck version here. Now, the weather has turned up here in Glasgow, and last week I ended up wearing a polo neck, which was, I think it was a Marks and Spencer's one that I bought many years ago. So I did quickly review my garments, and I thought, right, I could be making a polo neck from this pattern. It's version C, so it's not quite like a full polo neck. The neck is, I suppose, fluted in a flute, and then it's turned over. Excuse me. I wanted to make a lighter colour. I'll talk about that in my plans. But this fabric, I knew I had just about enough, and it's a dark grey knitted fabric, which I bought at my usual supplier quite a few years ago, Abercorn. I'll put the name in Rhyl in North Wales, and I think I bought it for using as cuffing on sweat tops. This fabric would have been bought by the kilo. They sell fabrics by the kilo. So I can't remember how much. Oh, I can remember because I measured it. It was 41 inches wide and 60 inches at its longest, and then 48 inches on the other side. So I took a little diagram. I'd obviously cut this bit out for cuffing. So I managed to squeeze in, with a little bit of tweaking on, I think, one of the sleeves, I managed to fit in a full garment. What I did do, I cut the sleeves to the length that I didn't have to do a turn under hem, and I ended up using a particular stitch on my sewing machine, which I did note down somewhere. What I did is looked online how to make an edge suitable for knitted stitch, knitted fabric, and it said turn down your tension, bobbin and top thread, and use a zigzag stitch. So what I did, I ended up using a zigzag, and I reduced the length, and I think I reduced the width of the zigzag. So I think that's going to work, as it's going to be robust enough to stop the edges fraying. Likewise, I did the same for the waist, so I didn't have to use any fabric for turning under a hem. So I'm pleased with that, because I didn't have loads of fabric to use. So I haven't wasted any using some for a turn up. To be honest, I'm really pleased with this top. It's comfy. I assume it's like some kind of acrylic or polyester, which I know isn't great for the environment in terms of the microplastics when you wash things. But it's what I had, and it saves buying any more fabric, and I will wear this a lot. The one the bought polo neck I had on last week, a similar colour, to be honest. I wore it loads under the pinafores I've made, and that's where I thought this would come in, but I didn't put a pinafore on it because I wanted to show the whole pattern. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern pieces, 2 sleeves, a front and back. So 4 pattern pieces, really straightforward. I used my overlocker, and I'll add a photo here of the inside, which I think has come out really neat. I did spend a lot of time, I'm just going to lean over here, excuse me. I did spend a lot of time de-fluffing my overlocker, getting all the lint out, and I had loads of lint out. So I really gave it a good clean with a makeup brush that, to be honest, I found in this room when we were renovating behind a radiator. I don't own a makeup brush. So that was a good find, and I've really used it for cleaning the lint. Not my idea. Somebody on Instagram showed me this, and I've really taken it up. So I cleaned the lint out of my overlocker, changed the thread because it was on white, and that went like a dream, because if you have an overlocker and you're a bit like me, sometimes changing the thread doesn't go smoothly. This did, and I'm really pleased with the stitch it came up with. So the only stitching I did on my ordinary machine was the cuffing, the waistline, and the edge of the inside of the neck. So I'm talking about this because I'm really pleased with it. I would really recommend this pattern. Obviously, there's going to be lots of other t-shirt roll neck type patterns out there. Drop a comment if you found a good one. But I've made lots of these, and they really suit I've got quite narrow shoulders, so really suits my shape, and it's a good winter staple, I think. So I made that this week, and the trousers are, again, ones I made ages ago, and I've shown this pattern previous. It's I don't know if it is an original Vogue pattern, but I like the shape of these, high-waisted and slim leg. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I have any fabric suitable to make any more of these trousers. I would like to make a thicker pair, perhaps a wool type pair for the winter. We'll see if I buy some fabric. I'm trying to think if there's anything I can reclaim to make some. Anyway, they are the trousers. So that's anything else I want to say about this. This is a 12, and the trousers are at 12. In terms of the pattern, what I do when I did cut this pattern out because I hadn't done this one before, so I did have to cut it out. And what I do then is I pin to my size. I remember when I first started making garments, I actually cut out the pattern to my size, and I'm not that size anymore. I've put on a bit of weight, so that pattern isn't as useful as it was. So I've learned I don't cut out the patterns. I expect the majority of you don't either. But I then pin it over to my size, and the pins I use, and I've left the pins in because I will be making another one of these. And the pins I use are from this jar here, which is a styling gel. I think this could have been mine in the 1980s, this styling gel. These pins came from my late mother's stash, and they are quite thick. So I'm not sure where she would have got them from. I'm thinking, are they like those pins you'd have in shirts? Remember they would pin the collars down? Not sure if they still do that, because often now shirts are just sold on hangers, aren't they, in shops? But they are quite a thick pin. Not if pins in the past were that thick. Anyway, that's the pins I use. I keep those for, I wouldn't particularly use those for garment making, but I keep them for pinning things that doesn't matter if they're a little bit damaged, the patterns hence. So that's what I'm wearing. I think that's it on that, but I am really pleased with this top, and I think it'll get a lot of use. So I'm going to tick that off. What I'm going to talk about now is the hat. I finished this last week, and I did talk about this little hat I made for a granddaughter, and she's coming over today, so I'll try it on her. Not sure she'll be up for a photograph, we'll see. But I added a label made by Granny, and I have these labels which I bought a few years ago now, and I don't often use them. I think I forget I've got them, but they are cute. They're from a company, I think in Dunfermline, so a Scottish company, but I bought these when we were living in North Wales, and I bought a variety, and they come in a cute little package. These are made by Granny. These are Play Away the Day, and these are handmade. And I have a few more which I think came from the Scottish frock tales that I attended not last year, the year before. You get like a goodie bag, and there's 2 on there, and then there's this one which came with the little parcel that I ordered. So I would recommend this company. It's called Little Rosy Cheeks, I think. Yeah, Little Rosy Cheeks. So and they do lots of different labels with different logos on. Like I said, I don't always put them in, but I added a little label to the hat that I made. So that's that I wanted to talk about. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the quilt top that I finished the quilt top this week. I'm going to add a photograph because it's not massive, but it will be better in a photograph. Now, I'm making this is going to be a throw size for our youngest son. One of his friends is getting married. They all seem to be getting married. Anyway, excuse me. One of his friends is getting married next year, and this young man is a friend of the family's. We lived near them for quite a few years. So we're not going to the wedding, but I'm making this as a gift for the bride and groom. So there's no rush, but I'm pleased with how quickly this has come together this week. The pattern is a free download that I downloaded off the internet, and I've used different colours from the pattern. The pattern is navy as the base fabric, but I had a roll of black which I washed through, and I'm really pleased with how it came out. And I had lots of these squares already cut out, so the quilt grew quite quickly, particularly because you cut strips. There's block A and block B, and block B is in strips rather than smaller squares, so it grows quite quickly. So the strips are 3.5 by 9.5, 3.5 by 6.5, so, and then a 3.5-inch square, so it grows quite quickly, which was nice. So I managed to complete, I said this before, some people call them the flimsy. I managed to complete the flimsy, the top this week, and I may then, this coming week, do the wadding, so the inner and the backing and the quilting. We'll see how I get on. Now the backing, I've got, again, trying to use my stash, I've got a couple of large pieces which I've had for a while. I've got this, which I thought would be quite colourful. I've got 2 large pieces of this, and I bought this sometime last year when I was visiting a friend down in Cambridge and we went into the city a few days, and really interesting. I'd never been down there before, and we did a trawl of the charity shops, and I bought this. It's not too thick. I think it'll work, and I've washed it through. I bought it for quilt backing, so I might use that because I think that would be nice and colourful. Or I've got this piece. This was a charity shop. I'm not sure if it was on the same trip, can't remember. And I was going to use this to make a quilt cover for our granddaughter's bed, but the size isn't there. This is not big enough, so I could cut this to fit probably. So that's another option. So it's that or this. I think I have a few other bits of backing size fabric, but I'm not sure. Whatever, I might use those two. And I haven't decided on the binding yet. I thought I'm going to use something bright rather than just the black, because I think that will add a nice contrast. So I'm pleased with that, and I would definitely recommend this pattern. It grows quite quickly. It's, what's the finished size? Let's have a look. It'll be 45.5 inches by 54.5 inches. So a really nice one for using up scraps. I think that's it on that quilt top. And I have made a list. Just a quick look at some purchases that I made. I couldn't resist. I did a charity shop haul. First of all, with the friend who lives in Cambridge, she called in for a couple of days a few weeks ago after doing a road trip around the Scottish Islands, the Outer Hebrides. So she and I went to the charity shops in a local town, and one of the things I bought, which I really like, is this book stand. Now, I think it could be a cookery book stand or just a book stand. So I don't know, it was £3 or something. And I was in an order, and I thought, no, it's pretty, I'm going to get that. And it's really useful for putting patterns or books and keeping them out of the way. So I'm pleased with that. There's a little pattern here that I'm interested in making at some point, a slippers pattern. Again, purchased years ago, not made, and I have some fleece and stuff I could use for those. So I'm pleased with my book stand. I bought that when my friend was visiting, and we trawled the charity shops in a local town. So that's one purchase. The other purchases are things I bought when we were on our road trip. I think there's nothing else here. So these were bought in Edinburgh in a charity shop, and they're fat quarters. Now, I don't really need any more fabric, but hey ho, I've bought them now. So they were only £1 each, and that one is stunning. Then, so there's 2 of those, a fab retro orange, a blue and orange, there's 2 of those, and then a nice pale blue. There was a plain orange, and I wish I'd bought it, to be honest, because I've sort of promised my granddaughter I'd make her some Halloween like statues and things. Oh, blimey. So I wish I'd bought the orange. Anyway, they are lovely. So £6, and I had 6 fat quarters, and they are, I'm pleased with those. They're lovely. What else did I buy? Some origami paper, because I fancy doing some origami. And again, they're lovely quality. I think they were £1.50, again in Edinburgh. And, oh, this is a bit naff, really. This was in Durness, north of Scotland. On a rainy afternoon, we found a little village charity shop. And it's a mermaid. Obviously, it's a child's thing, really. And a lot of there isn't a lot of embroidery on it. So anyway, I may keep that for when our granddaughter's a bit older, or I might make it. And what else is in here? Oh, these weren't charity shop. Sorry, I'm going to come back to you. These weren't charity shop. These were in a little maker's village. And this is a key ring. I bought 2 of these, one for our youngest son, one for our eldest, just to give them a key to our house. And I think they made out of things she's found on the beach. Anyway, I thought they were really cute. And then this is a sardine that she was making. She was sitting there knitting, this woman, really beautiful things. So I bought that because I think I'm going to make some sardines and fill a little wooden dish that I have waiting for something to go in it with these little sardines, just little scraps of fabric. And she had beautiful ones. She had a glass, what are they called? Oh, not oval. Circular jar. I can't remember the name. Full of sardines, and they looked so cute. So that's my little purchases. Oh, there is this. Sorry. Where did I buy this? Can't remember. I'm not even sure what it is. If it's cross stitch, or I haven't had a good look at it. But it's got all the wool, and it was just my need to buy something. So it's wool. I don't know if it's a tapestry. I haven't had a good look. I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. Excuse me. I have got a tissue under this lot somewhere. Right, so my purchases, my tissue. And what else? My plans for the coming week. So this top, I wanted to make, I've got the fabric out here, one out of this colour. What is it? Like a light lavender, a lilac. But I didn't have enough of this. Again, all from my stash. I really tried, but this piece is quite long, these pieces, because of the collar. I suppose right, so what I wanted to do was to make it in this, which I knew I'd wear, and to see how I could I add pieces here of this. I still don't think I'd have enough. So I'm going to make the body out of this, the front and back, and then the sleeves out of this pink. So there isn't enough out of either, I don't think, to make just one colour. So I'll make a combo of colours, which is fine. They're both colours, I think, which will look nice together. I have one more large piece, this grey, which I can tell straight away. These are all like a knit ribby effect. Don't think there's enough of that. See what I've got left of other bits. So that's one of my plans, and they're a really straightforward make. Not sure what colour overlocker thread I have, if it'll have to be white or if I've got some tones of pink. So that's one plan, is to make another one of these, but in a combo of colours. To do some work on this, decide on the backing. To also, in this book, which was recommended by, what's she called? Chris O'Neill. I can't remember. Then I'll write it at the bottom. Recommended by her for using up scraps. And they're lovely patterns in here, but there's one that I'm particularly interested in, which is this, which is a wall hanging. I think it's 20 by 20 inches by 20. But I'm going to use tones of pink because I have a lot of tones of pink to use up. So I've started rummaging through a scrap pile, and I think they are 3-inch squares, and then the hearts are appliqued on. But I thought that would be a nice hand sewn project. Sew the blocks on the machine, but applique the hearts by hand, which I've never done before, I don't think. So that's another project I'm aiming to try this week. And the other thing I'm working on is my Entrelac baby's blanket using random bright colours that I have. So I've done quite a bit more on this. It's quite long. And this mauve came from my late mother's stash. It was a bit of knitting. She was halfway through. I'll perhaps dig out the bit next week. But it's coming on nicely. I'm not sure where this will end up because it is of a particular taste, and it's quite vibrant. And I am going to add, I've got this basket here. I'm trying to do, I think, 8 rows before I go back to the green again. Otherwise, I'm not going to have enough, I don't think, of these yarns sort of to make up the pattern. So I've been working on that, and I said this last week, it's enough thinking to keep you interested, but also fairly, I shouldn't say mindless, but a fairly straightforward knit. So I'm pleased with that, and I'm going to carry on making that. I was a bit unsure whether or not I was going to frog it back, but I think it's going to work. It's going to be a really bright and funky baby blanket. So I'm going to be working on that, and I think that's it. That's enough for my plans for the week. So next weekend I am going on a weaving course, which will be hopefully very interesting. So I can do some feedback on that on Monday. And I think that's it for now. So thank you for joining me. It's good to have your company. I don't think I'm thinking straight, to be honest, with this cold. It is cold, virus, whatever is really dragging on. And hopefully it's going to be gone soon. Thanks again. Hope you get some nice stitching crafting done, and have a good week. Look after yourselves. Bye for now. Bye.